you are ready and if it's streamed, and I will start. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We will have now the afternoon poster session for trees and agriculture. My name is Bohdan Lojka. I'm from the Czech University of Life Sciences, and I will be chairing this poster session. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet in Prague today. I'm still in Prague, but at least we can organize Tropentag online, and even the poster session will be organized online. It's also for me quite a new experience. I have never been attending online conference, so I hope all the presenters will be okay with that, and we will have a nice session. We have 1 hour altogether. We should have 10 posters to be presented. Most of the presenters will send short video, so each poster will be presented as a short, let's say 2 to 3 minutes video. And then if you are on the audience on live stream, and if you are on WOA, you can ask some question through chat, or the presenters can of course ask the question. Well, in the afternoon we had quite a nice aura presentation session that started this overall session on trees and agriculture, which is very interesting 5 oral presentation. And now we will have 10 poster presentation. Most of them are about agroforestry, about use of the trees. And most of them are actually based in either Latin America, we will have studies, or in Africa. I found only one study that was in Asia from Myanmar. But last but not least, there will be at least one study from Myanmar. But yeah, I will quit to speak. The time is running. So I will ask first presenter, Jacques. He's online. So please, you have now 3 minutes to present and show us the poster. So I will ask our technicians to put the video. Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon and welcome to the presentation titled Cracking the Brazil Nut Puzzle, Can Nut Gathering and Timber Harvesting Coexist? The Brazil nut is an important non-timber forest product in the Amazon region, where logging is also an important economic activity. For both these activities to coexist in the long term, it's important to assess which forest management practices can enhance or at least maintain the productive potential of the Brazil nut stands. The objectives of this literature review were firstly to identify the most important factors for nut production, secondly to assess which forest management practices could enhance production or at least minimize trade-offs occurring during timber harvest. Thirdly, the objective was to assess how the different legal and institutional frameworks in Peru, Bolivia, and Brazil, where the nuts are mainly gathered, shape the stakeholder perspectives in the respective countries. In the method section, you can see how the literature selection process occurred from a systemic research on Web of Science, narrowed down to 61 papers, which were looked at in depth during the review. The location of these 61 papers can be seen on the map below, with the repartition and the number of studies, with Brazil having the overwhelming majority and 8 studies being done across the entire region. So the results in terms of most important production factors are summarized under these bullet points, and the overall results from the entire review are summarized in the scheme below, which is divided as follows. In the top part, there is the productive factors, which can be external, then the population factors, which are short, mid, and long-term population structure, and finally the individual factors. And these factors translate to recommended management practices below at the stand level on the left side here for Brazil nut gatherers, and at the forest management level in terms of synergistic and mitigating logging practices for the nut production. And as a conclusion, the two livelihood strategies can coexist, or there are even synergies between them, but they depend on the timing and the location of forestry practices, and as to whether they are planned with the nut gatherers, if they are not done by them. And at the moment, institutional barriers and conflicting legal frameworks in the three countries are hindering the integration of both practices. Below, you can see a selection of the most important sources. Thank you for your attention.
Can you mute my microphone? Who is not now on? So thank you, Jack, for your interesting presentation. I will check. We have probably 1 minute for some questions, so I will ask the audience, probably other presenters, if they have any questions. I don't see any question in session or the question and answer on WOWA. Well, I can ask just a general. Sebastian, could you mute your microphone? We don't hear you.
Sorry, yes.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah, how would you just pick up one of the most important recommendation for sustainable harvesting, together with harvesting of the Brazilian nut and harvesting of the timber, like for probably policy recommendation for Brazilian government or whosoever?
Well, I would say that the most important practices would be the mapping that can be done during the selection of the logs to be cut, and which is also mitigating because you look at where are the most productive Brazil nut trees and how not to damage them during the logging activity.
So selecting the trees that should be like mainly dedicated for harvesting the nuts, and then selecting the trees that would be mainly used for timber production, for logging.
Well, the Brazil nuts in Brazil are protected from felling. So anyways, it's not about selecting the Brazil nuts, but it's rather logging other trees that are of value without damaging the Brazil nut stands.
So to have some policy how to harvest the other timbers for not interfering with the harvest of the Brazilian nut.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. If there are no more questions and I look on WOWA, I don't see any. Yeah, there is one question. Yeah, from Falco.
Jacques, are you planting your Brazil nut in plantations?
Well, I don't have any Brazil nuts myself, but from what I read, the Brazil nut plantations are not productive or not very productive because the tree requires almost intact ecosystem for producing, mainly because the pollinating bees are really large and heavy, and to enter the flowers, they need that size, and those bees are mostly found in almost intact forests. So it's really important not to log too much as well.
Yeah. Was it okay? Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. So thank you very much once again, Jack. And we skipped another presentation. Elisa is there, and it should be from Ghana. So please, can we have your presentation or short video?
Dear auditors, my name is Elisa Bossi and I welcome you to my poster presentation about cocoa plant health in dynamic agroforestry system and in traditional full sound system. This study was conducted from April to July 2019 in Western Ghana and aims to compare the health of young cocoa plants between the two cultivation systems. Another goal was to assess the influence of good field management practices on cocoa health during the field establishment phase. But first of all, something about the two systems. DAF's plots were established transplanting seedlings of different permanent species such as acacia, cashew, timber trees, and fruit trees. On full sun plots, cocoa was the only permanent species planted. In both systems, during the field establishment phase, there are planted trees on the field, but they are not considered permanent species because they will not be replaced by farmers after 3 or 4 years. The data for this study were collected on 20 DAFs and on 9 full sun plots aged 1, 2, or 3 years. For the mortality rate, the dead and the alive cocos were counted. The growth rate was measured with the stem diameter and the age of the plants. The cocoa vigor and the field management were assessed through visual appreciation in a ranking of 5 categories, where 1 was very low and 5 was very high. The results show that the mortality rate of young cocoa trees in the full sun system is statistically higher than in DAFs. The growth rate was found to be higher in DAFs plots than in full sun plots. On the other side, the cocoa vigor was found not to differ between the plots of the two cultivation systems. Statistical analysis show no significant difference in management quality between the two cultivation systems. What was found to be an important difference between the two systems is the planting scheme. In DAFs, cocos are planted in lines, but in full sun plots they are planted randomly. This causes some difficulty for farmers during the weeding practices. In fact, during the rainy season, the vegetation is very high, and the young cocoa trees are often hidden under the high weeds. Another interesting result is the strong influence of the quality of field management on cocoa mortality rate. In fact, considering all plots, cocoa mortality was much higher in plots that were ranked with lower field management quality, what means with higher rates or with a lower rate of replanting of dead species, for example like plantains. Because cocoa mortality and growth rate were found to be higher in DAF's plots, it can be concluded that plant health of young cocoa trees is higher in DAFs than in full sun monocultures. The cocoa vigor was found not to differ, but it should be considered that we assessed the vigor only of living cocoa plants. Independently of the cultivation system, the field management quality was found to have a strong influence on plant health and especially on mortality. The precision during weeding practices helps finding a good balance between shade provided to the young cocoa and weed concurrence for water and nutrients. The planting scheme in lines, such as the DAF scheme, simplify the management of the field for farmers. In fact, knowing the exact distance between seedlings helps farmers not to cut young cocoa trees accidentally during weeding practices. Cocoa health is then higher in dynamic agroforestry system and in well-managed fields. For this reason, it is important to encourage farmers not only to diversify the species on the field with DAFs to give them resilience in case of future climatic changes, but also to sensitize them to improve the field management to reduce the vulnerability of young cocoa trees during the field establishment phase. This was my presentation and I thank you for your attention and I'm here if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa, for a very interesting presentation about cocoa establishment in Ghana. So now I ask the audience or the presenter if they have any soaring question. In the meanwhile, I look at the WOWA if we have some questions. Well, nobody is asking through chat. Yep, Jack, you can ask. Unmute your microphone.
Mhm. Elisa, did you find out which was the main cause of mortality of the young cocoa plants?
No, because it was not so easy, and they are still searching if there are a cause that is the problem for the weight. But I think the weeding practices is for sure something important for the mortality. Yeah.
Like, you mean if they don't weed enough, well, the cocoa young seedlings are like die because of the competition with other vegetation.
The pressure from other vegetation, from other weeds, they are so high, and the pressure is really high. Yes. And then also cutting them accidentally during weeding practices is something that occurs quite often.
It is usually higher in the full sun cocoa than in agroforestry.
Yes, because the cocos are planted so randomly and farmers do not know exactly where they are. So if the weeds are so 2 meters height, it's quite easy to cut them.
Okay, thank you. Falco has.
Yes, only agroforestry system for you means that they grow in shade.
Yes, and with other species.
Because they are immediately dying with too much sun. Okay. I wonder why Ghana is carrying out such studies now, because they have been the country of the best cacao in the last century. It's really incredible for me.
Okay, any question? Well, do we go if yeah, okay, I will. Kevin.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a question. Did you observe visually some difference in terms of pest and disease between these two systems? Since it could explain also why you have a so high mortality in full sun system. So I don't know if you have observed something.
I only found two plots with diseases, and it was one agroforestry plot and one full sun plot. I did not find any differences in terms of pest and diseases, but it could be that the high mortality is explained by diseases, but I could not assess why these cocos were dead.
Okay, thank you.
Because they were already dead.
Thank you.
Just final remarks. Well, will you continue with studying that system, or there is a continuation of evaluating the system, because it would be also to see, and mainly, well, the farmers will be interested in yields. And in the morning we had example, or in the afternoon session, or our presentation was about cocoa yields, and it was quite clear that usually in agroforestry system the yields of cocoa are lower. Yeah, that in the full sun. Finally.
Considering only cocoa, yes.
Yeah.
But it's a long-term project, and they will assess different parameters in a long period of time.
Yeah. So yeah, those studies from Alto Beni was there from Bolivia. I think it was interesting also to look at that. Of course, we didn't evaluate. They didn't evaluate it other incomes that the farmers could have from the trees, of course, but in general, at least at the beginning, the cocoa yields were lower. Yeah. Okay, let's skip to another presentation, not running out of the time. So the next presentation should be by Clement. Clement, are you there? Okay. Do we have the video from Clement? Someone from WhatsApp or not? Yes. So can we play the video? Without questions?
Should I continue?
Wait a moment. Yeah, now there will be a video.
Hello, my name is Clement Solm Teteli. I'm a student at the School of Tropical Forestry of National University of Agriculture in Benin. The work that we have the pleasure to present at this conference is entitled Agroforestry and Anti-Erosion Practice of Soil Conservation in Sudanian Zone in Benin. The study was carried out in the northwest of Benin in the commune of Wake. Its aim is to identify agroforestry and anti-erosion practice in the commune of Wake, diagnose and prioritize them in terms of soil conservation for agriculture more productive. The approach used in this study was based on the structured and semi-structured interview with 215 farmers in 22 villages. At the end of this study, we identify in the commune of Wake 8 agroforestry practices where we have the association of crops with parent plants and the 5 anti-erosion practices which are preventing soil degradation. On picture here are the illustration of some practice. These practices do not have the same level of adoption as we see in figure 1 at agroforestry practice, the dominance of parkland of Pachyia biglobosa and the dominance at anti-erosion in figure 2, a furrow in perpendicular direction to the slope. Also, the adoption of this practice varies according to socio-demographic situation such as age, ethnicity, education level, economy, and the region. As we see in figure 3, the distribution of anti-erosion practice in the factorial plane. The prioritization of practice to identify those are most effective in terms of soil conservation has been done on 2 axes, one of which is based on the opinion of farmers who give a score to each of their practice. Thus, at agroforestry practice in figure 4, we notice that the parkland with Pachyia biglobosa and Vitellaria paradoxa have more priority and the water blocking bond at anti-erosion practice in figure 5. The second axis prioritization was done on the base of the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat of each practice. There at agroforestry practice in table 1, parkland of Pachyia biglobosa and Vitellaria paradoxa always have more priority, followed by agropastoralism. Regarding anti-erosion practice in table 2, stone bones have more priority in terms of soil conservation. In conclusion, we retain that the practices identified are not efficient and sufficient, but they have the strength and assets which need to be maximized. So we must encourage this practice by basing on the prioritary practice for agriculture ensuring food security, sensibilize and training the farmers, initiate projects to press agroforestry and anti-erosion practice of soil conservation, perform and create new agroforestry and anti-erosion practice of soil conservation. Thank you for your attention.
Sorry, yeah, well, I was muted. Sorry. So we cannot ask the questions because we don't have the presenter. So I will ask the next presenter, which is Falco. So can you have your presentation? Falco? You're muted.
Why doesn't, can you see it?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay, you see the poster.
Uh-huh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for the possibility to inform you about the ongoing establishment of a new demonstration farm in the near of Waterloo, Sierra Leone. The project is the first agricultural approach of a Sierra Leonean German NGO, Lion for Lion, working tightly together since 20 years in the medical sector. They are supported by national and international universities and research centers. We call the farm the Moringa Innovation and Startup Center, MOST, because the wonder tree Moringa oleifera is the ecological and economic basis for the transformation of a degraded site into an efficient and environmentally sound agroforestry system. The concept of the transformation process follows the idea of permaculture. For instance, permaculture integrates design principles reflecting whole system thinking, circulation of nutrients, and so on. Starting with Moringa, the growing system will integrate more and more useful plants of all growth form types, realizing finally agroforestry. Degraded soil has been planted with Moringa 2 years ago already. Currently, the carrying capacity is assessed with conventional production. This year, we will start to harvest Moringa material as fresh produce and will use Moringa stems for hugelcultural construction. In the moment, we are collecting information about native plants for use in plant guilds. In the next years, water harvest systems, nutrient recycling based on Moringa material will be installed and will allow to integrate more plant species to be produced. Rotation of crops and cultivation systems will end in diverse permacultural agroforestry system. After 10 years, the carrying capacity of the farm basing on permacultural agroforestry will be assessed. The Moringa Innovation and Startup Center tries to rethink agriculture as citizen science approach. Farmers learn by doing, monitor, document, and teach afterwards their community. Own facilities for diagnosis and analysis complement the center and allow education of farmers and students on farm, supported by scientists from Yale University and abroad. The offer of a startup consultancy service should lay the basis for small-scale entrepreneurial actions of the most. Overall, permacultural agroforestry will create food expertness and ecological stability. When the facilities have been finished, we will invite you to visit the center and will offer options for cooperation. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Falco, for this interesting presentation of this project. Yeah, it was really nice. So I would like to travel to Sierra Leone.
Yes, I too. I really regret that I have to present it because my African colleagues don't have the possibility to do so. We don't have internet there. No?
Yeah. We do understand that. Thank you for that. I don't see any questions in WOA. Any questions from the audience? No. So the basic like product that you want to market in that is Moringa, as I understand, and probably then so it's based mainly on cultivation of Moringa.
The idea started with the medical center, which we have, a hospital. There, a lot of children have anemia.
Mm-hmm.
We need Moringa for them. So we do not market at the beginning anything. We harvest the fresh produce for our hospital.
Okay.
But we planted now 2,000 trees on this site, and they are growing well. And within a short time of 1 or 2 years, we already can collect so much material that we can sell the first fresh produce on the local markets.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, we start with this conventional farming system, which will decrease in productivity after short time, because we are completely working organically without agrochemicals. That means we have urgently to install the compost system, and this necessarily has to be understood by the farmer himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we demonstrate that his productivity is decreasing without the compost, and hope that the compost system can be introduced and initiated by moringa as well. And moringa is really a wonder tree. The only part you cannot really use is the stem because he is very smooth. But this is the solution for the water harvesting system.
I have to stop you, Falco.
Yes.
It would be very nice to discuss that, but we have
Yes, I'm
more
absolutely
presenters
delighted
that-
of this project.
Thank you very much. Sorry for that interesting.
Okay.
Well, probably we see you next Tropentag somewhere we can discuss
Yes,
it
we will.
at your university. Thank you very much, Falco. I will ask because we are running out of the time and we have to hurry up. The next presenter, Dennis. So about again, we go back to Ghana. So Dennis, the floor is yours, and please keep your time, 3 minutes.
Dear audience, my name is Dennis Chre. I'm a PhD student from the Faculty of Tropical Agri-Sciences at the Czech University of Life Sciences, Prague. I welcome you to my poster on the effect of shade trees in cocoa agroforestry systems on water and light availability in dry seasons. The goal of the research was to assess the effect of single standing shade trees in cocoa systems on soil moisture and photosynthetic active radiation availability in dry seasons, and how these environmental factors affect potential cocoa yields. The research was conducted in a moist semi-deciduous forest zone of Ghana. 7 different shade trees commonly found in cocoa systems were selected with 4 replicates per tree. The tree effect ratio, comparing sub-canopy effects to open sun effects, was used to test for differences between the individual trees. Soil moisture effect was observed to be highest in the sub-canopies of Maronda lucida 0.19, Spatodia campanulata 0.16, Ficus capensis 0.13, with a significantly low moisture effect of negative 0.28 under Citrus sinensis. E. angulens and T. superba transmitted the highest photosynthetic active radiation of 69% and 67% respectively to the understory cocoa, while M. indica and C. sinensis had the lowest light in the subcanopy. Cocoa yield effects was found to be highest under the subcanopies of M. lucida 0.40, T. superba 0.40, and E. angulens 0.34, but lowest under M. indica negative 0.55 and C. sinensis negative 0.26. During dry seasons, M. lucida, S. campanulata, and F. capensis ensure high soil moisture content in the subcanopy. E. angulens and T. superba transmit high power to the subcanopy. Potential use of cocoa in the subcanopies of M. lucida, T. superba, and E. angulens are high. M. lucida, S. campanulata, E. angulens, and T. superba in cocoa systems potentially ensure favorable microclimate in the subcanopy, which could translate into higher cocoa pod yields, especially during dry seasons. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for interesting presentation. Actually, Dennis is currently my PhD student, so we know each other, and he's based in Prague. So we can discuss his work quite extensively. But probably you have some soaring questions from the audience. Any questions? I look at the WOA, there are no questions. So probably I will ask you later, Dennis. Oh, yeah. Well, Marco, Falco, sorry.
One question, Dennis. I spoke with someone from Indonesia, and she told me because of this microclimate in agroforestry, they find a lot of stem borers. Could you identify such pests there?
You're muted, Dennis.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because of the incidence of climate change, it has also increased the incidence of pests and diseases in cocoa systems. And in Ghana, they are one of the challenges farmers are facing in terms of cocoa pests. Yeah, so it's very common in Ghana.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Is it okay? The answer? Right. Thank you very much. And we have to hurry up. Sorry for the next speaker, which should be Sebastian, if I don't mistake. So, Sebastian, the floor is yours for a few minutes. Can we have the video? Yep.
Hello, I am Sebastian de la Hoz. I am presenting the poster on the Maya Brindle tree, providing sustainable nutrition and forestry from the ancient Maya until today. This is an example of the poster I will be presenting. So the scientific name for the Maya Brindle tree is Brosimum alicastrum. It's also known as Ramon, Maya nut, bread nut, capomo, or ujuste. Cattle farming has been one of the main reasons for deforestation in the Maya Biosphere Reserve. This, combined with climate change, lower rainfall and water tables, has been limiting feasibility in cattle ranching. Now, thanks to government forestry incentives and with proper selection of native species, we can provide a working model demonstrating the long-term economically attractive option of reforestation over cattle ranching. This is a recent example of deforestation for cattle ranching. This map shows the Maya Biosphere Reserve in Guatemala. It's 21,000 square kilometers and it's 1/5 of the country's territory. Here you can see in red all the forest loss in the past years in the Maya Biosphere Reserve, especially in the buffer zone. Here are other examples of deforestation for cattle farming. We are restoring abandoned cattle fields with at least 30 native economically useful species. And of those, we chose Maya Brindle tree as a predominant species in our agroforestry strategy. This is one of our projects with 33 hectares of restoration with 30% of Brosimum alicastrum trees. Here's a Brosimum alicastrum tree on top of an ancient Mayan pyramid and Brosimum alicastrum fruits. Here's a spider monkey feeding on fruits and leaves in Brosimum alicastrum tree, and some park guards standing by the trunk of a Brosimum alicastrum tree inside an Mayan archaeological site. Here are some important facts about Maya Brindle tree. One of the most important is that you can find this tree in Mexico, Central America, Amazon Basin, and in Caribbean islands. These nutrition facts are being compared with corn, whole wheat, oats, and soy. About the harvesting and industrial process, a tree may produce up to 200 kilograms of food per year. The international demand is growing because it's an organic and gluten-free product. Also, it's considered a superfood, and it's fair trade, empowering women, and eco-friendly because it's reducing deforestation and promoting reforestation. Here are some examples of the seeds and how they are being dried under the sun. If assisted by forestry financial incentives and international information dispersion, the Maya Brindle tree can support acceptance of reforestation schemes that benefit environmental, nutritional, and economic circumstances at both regional and village levels. Something really important is that by developing these projects, we can help achieve 9 of the Sustainable Development Goals. I hope you enjoy the presentations, and please feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for interesting presentation, Sebastian, and this interesting species from Guatemala, Maya nut. Well, if there is any questions from the audience. I don't see any questions from WOWA. I have probably one question. Do the local people, harvest it from wild, or they really plant it and grow it on their field?
They used to harvest it on the wild from the forestry community concessions in the Maya Biosphere Reserve, but there was some research made 10 to 15 years ago, and then some plantations they started around 10 years ago. So probably we'll have forest harvesting from plantations this year. So, and then we are starting these projects, and we would like to do like the most we can in the biosphere reserve, because as you can see, it's been deforested, and it's very sad.
Okay, so it's still not domesticated species.
Yeah. It's being domesticated now. Yes.
Yeah, it's been. Yeah. Falco, very rapid question.
Yeah. Will the diversification of the products, or will you produce more than only one product from this tree, or will you diversify the species in such a plantation?
We are going to we are doing some research with the University of Minnesota Food Investigation Department. Right now, they produce a flour, a powder, which is used as a superfood, or they used to make to add to other like bread or cookies or any other dish you want. They also make a beverage, which is very high in nutrients. And also in the projects we are diversificating, and we are only putting native species, and we are trying to get the most as we can from the non-timber species, because we want to do plantations, but we want them to be productive, not in 20 years, but in 4 to 5 years. So it is attractive for cattle farmers to go to reforestation.
Okay, thanks a lot. We have to cut it now and go to the next presenter, which is Jose Andres. Are you there? Do I see Jose Andres? No, he's not here. So I don't know if we have a video, but if we have a video, we will give it at the last. I would like to hear the presenters mainly that are here and are online. So let's skip that, and I will ask Adriana, and we stay in Latin America to Colombia. Adriana, could you have your presentation, or could we have from technicians your video there? So please, could you play Adriana's video? Yep.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to present Workers Map Social Landscape Values in a Colombian oil palm plantation in Mapiripan, Meta, Colombia. My name is Adriana Gomez. The present study was performed in the Macondo farm in Colombia in South America. The Macondo farm was selected due to the particular plantation design. Not only has oil palms, but also natural land covers, such as gallery riparian forest, natural grasslands, and wetlands. The present study applies participatory mapping techniques with workers to identify and localize social landscape values. We use the term social landscape values to indicate the benefits that people identify, use, and appreciate in a specific landscape. These authors use the term to have a better insight on the complex socio-ecological systems and to have the spatial distribution of the perceived social landscape values. With this, we want to answer two questions. First, which social landscape values workers assign to the land covers present in the farm? And second, where are the social landscape values localized in the farm? For this, we performed 3 focus group discussions to have a list of the social landscape values and the interview guide. We conducted 35 participatory mapping interviews in which participants localized the social landscape values in the farm. Then we digitalized each map from the interviews and measured the social landscape metrics. Then we created maps for each social landscape values using frequencies, which is the number of times the participants mention a social landscape value within a land cover. For results, from the information of the focus group discussions, we extracted the social landscape values. This is the list, and with this list, we will work further on. The 35 interviewees mentioned 511 times the social landscape values within the land covers. Here, I present the most relevant social landscape metrics. Intensity is the total sum of social landscape values in the land cover. It is interesting to see that oil palm had the highest scores, followed by gallery and riparian forest and water bodies. Shannon diversity measures the diversity of social landscape values within a land cover. Here, epiphytarium had the highest diversity. Epiphytarium is a conservation area in the farm, followed by oil palm and gallery and riparian forest. Then we generated maps for each social landscape value, and here it is interesting to see that oil palms planted in 2009, located here, had the highest frequencies not only for shade but also for biological control, beauty, observation of fauna, take a rest, and soil formation. Other land covers, for example, gallery and riparian forest, for example, located here, share other social landscape values for observation of fauna, biological control, beauty, fresh water, take a rest, and soil formation. It is also important to mention that observation of fauna was selected for the whole farm. As conclusions, to date, no previous study has used participatory mapping in an oil palm plantation. In this study, we found that workers do identify and use social landscape values through their interaction with the Macondo farm. Workers have developed a sense of place attachment, generating feelings and bonds for a place through this social interaction and recognition of places that fulfill their lives, for example, work. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Adriana, for a very interesting presentation. Very, in my opinion, a bit controversial because, well, we always perceive here in Europe that very bad perception about oil palm, and it seems that, well, for those workers and the people living there, the social landscape values, the high score of oil palm are very interesting. Thank you very much. Any questions from the audience? No, from the chat. So do you think really that the workers really perceive the oil palm as really beauty, and or is it because they have livelihood out of the oil palm, I guess? Or do you think they really perceive that oil palm plantation are very good for them? Yeah, is it right as I understood that?
Yes, I think it's both. One part is how the plantation design is well has been done. So it's not only oil palm but also other land covers. So is a heterogeneous farm, as I call it, and this interaction of land covers, or this mixture of land covers, so generates the people perceive social landscape values. So so that's why I selected this farm, because it's not the usual oil palm plantation. And
Okay, it's not the
and so with
monocultural
this,
as we know from Southeast Asia. Probably,
yes,
yeah, it could be a bit different.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
okay.
this is what I wanted to see, if this type of farms can generate values for people.
Okay. Thank you very much. Interesting presentation. Yeah. Let's move again and now to Kevin, to Ecuador.
Dear audience, my name is Kevin Piatto from Bern University of Applied Science. I would like to present a field trial performed in collaboration with the National Institute of Agronomic Research in Ecuador, INIAP. The goal was to assess the impact of different agroforestry systems on Robusta coffee growth, yield and physiology in the Ecuadorian Amazonia. To that aim, we have tested 20 treatments combining 5 shading methods with 4 farming practices. The shading methods were coffee plants without shading trees, coffee plants with Myroxylon balsamum, coffee plants with Erythrina, coffee plants with the tree Inga edulis, and finally coffee plants with both Myroxylon balsamum and Erythrina trees. The 4 farming practices assessed were conventional farming at either moderate or intensified input, and organic farming at low or intensified input. The field experiment was established in 2015, and I report the data that have been collected this year. The response variables measured were coffee height, measured manually, leaf chlorophyll concentration, measured with a chlorophyll meter, and the cherry fresh production for 3 months. Shade quantity was also determined with a pyranometer. Here you can find some descriptive results. Robusta coffee plants grown under the shade of Inga edulis or Erythrina trees had higher height and higher leaf chlorophyll concentration compared with those grown under full sun condition. Nevertheless, shade trees reduced cherry production in comparison with full sun system, although there was hardly any reduction in yield in the best performing Inga edulis system. Furthermore, 30 to 45% of shade allowed to increase significantly the height and the chlorophyll concentration. Cherry production was reduced with shade, except with 45% of shade. 45% of shade allowed to increase cherry production by 3%. If we look now at the effects of farming practices, we can see that tree height, chlorophyll, and cherry yield per tree were all higher in the conventional treatments. However, the moderate input had higher yields per tree than the intensive one. To conclude, we can observe a competition between vegetative growth and reproductive growth at low levels of shade. It seems that 45% of shade will optimize the trade-off between them. The inclusion of trees may improve the Robusta bush nutrient uptake, probably improving the soil structure. This will be to this reason that we may have more chlorophyll and growth in shaded system. Inga edulis allowed to have a high cherry productivity since it could have a negative effect on Xylosandris morigerus, the main Robusta coffee pest in the Amazonia. Further work needed to assess interaction between factors. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to ask.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin, for interesting presentation. Finally, coffee, yeah, in agroforestry. Interesting results. Any questions from the audience? No, I look at the... So I like that you really have recommendations. So you find out that like shade of 45%, which is relatively high. It's finally the highest yield or comparable yield with the full sun. We are always struggling with this situation that full sun has high yield and farmers prefer it. But even under this quite heavy shade, the yield were maintained or even a little bit higher than in the full sun. Is it correct?
Yes, so it's completely correct. So we see that from 45% of shade, you have almost the same yield and slightly higher yield than in full sun system, since probably at this level of shade, the nutrients, so you have so high nutrient in the leaf that one part of this nutrient could be allocated to food production. So below this level, probably there is not enough the nutrient in the leaf, and all these nutrients go in the growth of the coffee plants.
Yeah, and
this is quite interesting.
You didn't evaluate the quality of the coffee. Falco, yeah.
Inga edulis is a nitrogen fixing plant. Maybe this has an influence too, no?
Yes, of course. So this is not the only one that we have tested, which is leguminous trees. So what I think is really that there is something special with this tree. Probably that this tree could reduce the pest infestation. And for example, Xylosandrus mauritius, this is a very serious pest of coffee fruit in the Amazonia zone. So probably that the type of tree has a big role in this.
Okay, I have to stop this section now. We have, well, running out of the time totally, and they are pressing on us to stop. Last presentation, Teresa, last but not least. Let's go to Asia and Myanmar, please.
Yes, it seems that they didn't receive my presentation, so I will try to share my screen.
The best. And you have to do it in 3 minutes. Otherwise, they will cut off us.
Can you see something?
Yep, your presentation.
Okay, perfect.
Welcome from my side to the presentation of my master thesis project. The title of my research is Developing Factors around Myanmar's inland lake, supporting small-scale farmers.
We don't hear it. Can you?
Oh. Should I?
Oh, you can speak. The better if you speak, if possible.
Can you hear it?
We don't hear your presentation. We hear you, but
okay.
not the video.
Okay. So wait. No. So the title of my presentation is Developing Agroforestry around Myanmar's inland lake in order to support once the small-scale farmers and then the local ecosystem, so the environment. I did my research in the Shan state of Myanmar in the watershed area of Puela, which is here. And the research goal was to investigate whether and how the agroforestry practices can benefit the small-scale farmers on one side and the specific biosphere of the inland lake on the other side. I did, during the first field visit, 43 individual interviews, 8 key informant interviews, 6 focus group discussions and observations and field visits. And in the second field visits, some infield trainings and farmer field schools have been organized. The first findings, so for the first research question, what are the existing agricultural forestry practices and the challenges faced by the farmers? So the farmers mainly grow rice, potatoes, vegetables, avocado, and some fruit trees as well, tea and coffee. They do mainly monocropping, so sole cropping on their farmlands and some intercropping in their home gardens. The main income is from selling the harvests on the local markets, and the farmers, they are confronted to some challenges such as the climate change, deforestation, and the lack of money. What are the benefits of the trees for the farmers and the environment, and the motivation and the reluctances of the farmers to start agroforestry? So the farmers, they want to plant trees because they think it's good for the climate regulation or increase their income, and it's also a mean for them to overcome the main challenges of, as I said before, climate change, deforestation, and lack of money. And they're a bit afraid of planting trees because of the shadow, that the shadow hinder the crops to grow well, and the long time to wait to reap the benefits. And during the individual interviews, so 51% of the farmers said they were very interested. Interested in starting with agroforestry. 16 were even very interested, and 21% would like to first assist to some trainings and group discussions about agroforestry to after that start with agroforestry. The third findings about what are the best fitting tree species and agroforestry designs for the small scale farmers. So the farmers, they would prefer to grow some avocado trees, silver oak, coffee, tea, and macadamia, for example. And during the focus group discussions, they said they would prefer either to grow the trees inline the field with the crops in alternance with rows of crops, or either around the field with the crops growing inside. And these are the drawings from the farmers they did during the focus group discussion. And then how can be the farmers supported in turning into agroforestry? And the first mean is to further going on with trainings with a local organization, which is called FICAD. And with further infield trainings and going on with the farmer field schools, which already have been organized. As a conclusion, even if the farmers they have a lack of technical knowledge regarding further benefits of agroforestry, they have really interest and motivation and willingness to overcome the challenges they face and to learn more about a sustainable production system. And the environmental conditions are really well adapted also to implement agroforestry there. And so at the end, there is a significant potential of developing agroforestry in the region. Voilà. Thank you.
Great, Teresa. Thank you very much. We had some complication, and but finally we made it. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. Interesting study. Yeah, the farmers clearly are interested in agroforestry. Any questions from the audience? More questions? So they really depend on rice, I guess, in Myanmar. Yeah, I have one student from Myanmar, and everything is rice.
It's the staple food.
So are they doing at this moment any agroforestry system?
Sorry?
Are they already have established any agroforestry system?
So they already, some are already planting trees and others don't. But it's the beginning. It's not really set in the mind of the people there, and they are more practicing some monocultures, like only rice or only chili, only vegetables. And the aim would be to put in place a more sustainable production system so that the farmers could profit more about it, and that the environment as well.
Okay, thanks. So hopefully someone will take your results and really start some promotion and training in agroforestry system.
Yeah, we will go on with the project. It's
excellent.
Yeah.
So it was some baseline study, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. We are out of the time. Probably they are not streaming us anymore, as I understood. But anyhow, thank you very much for that. We had 9 a very interesting presentation. I think it was great from all of you. So applause, at least from my side, and I think from others. It was a pity that we couldn't see each other live and meet and speak and go for dinner, probably. Hopefully next time. Yeah. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. and we hope good luck in your future research, and see you in at the occasion, hopefully live. Yeah, thanks a lot, and
Thank
run
you
for
for
post the
moderating.
presentation. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Bye.